All right, well, I've already feathered one stick here, just testing out the Woodlore clone. It's Gray Wolf knives, but this is a Woodlore clone, 5/32 thick, and as I've stated, one size doesn't fit all, and I wanted to change this. So started off on 400 grit, I'm sorry, 120 grit Edge Pro. Got this down to about where I wanted it, which happened to be about a 10-degree angle. Then I actually took a Dremel and blended that line in, and then finally took it to the stones, 400 grit up to 5,000 or 6,000, I believe, which is obviously plenty, plenty to you know, for a knife like this here. I know some of those things can get actually pretty crazy too, and you can start you know, getting to 10,000, 12,000 and stuff like that. But just to show you, this, I know, and I gotta say, one of the excuse me, one of the things that I had really liked about the Woodlore design in general is the fact that it's a stout knife. I just didn't feel, as I've stated, just didn't quite feel that the grind suited me for what I like to do out here. But definitely the tool's stoutness for certain does. I've said before, I sort of I roll with a system, and I do have a pocket knife, and so any type of extreme slicing that I absolutely need to get done that for some reason this couldn't do, which I don't know what that would be, but we'll just say that I do have a pocket knife. This to me feels a great roll between a you know, Estwing hatchet, even BK9, Ontario, one of their large knives, and all the way up to you know, your double bit cruisers and boys axes. Great tool here, stout enough to handle a lot of things. Of course, I do like the Osage orange handle scales. The other thing I really like about the Woodlore design is that it is extremely comfortable, at least for me. Comfortable in a myriad of different grips, and always very controllable. And I know that the sharpening worked out okay, because everything seems to be blended in smoothly, and it feels good to use, and that's obviously the number one factor. Feels very good to use. I don't really think I lost much in the carving aspects with this knife. I don't really think much was lost there. I do feel a gain, and the gain is once I start biting deeper, this convexing that I did doesn't get bound up in the wood as the wedge shape of that real thick Scandi grind would start to. It'd be a lot of force trying to at that point to bite deep. This seems to bite deeper a lot easier, but like I said, not give up much control. I had done some cross-grain batoning earlier, and that was a pleasure. It was not like the thick Scandi grind that would almost back me out of the cut because it just got too thick too soon. This bit in nicely. You could really drive it to you know, take down things for shelter poles and what have you. So, you know, this obviously is still just a little bit on the crude side. I'm going to roll with it like this for the time being, see how this suits me. And I think it's going to suit me just fine. I know at this thickness, durability is not an issue. If I want a little more slicing, you know, I can thin this a little bit more. But through the polishing, you know, the sharpening of this knife, these tool marks here from the process of doing this will disappear. They're smooth as can be right now. You can't feel them. It's just blemishes, you know, from being on the blade and from using the blade here. We got a little bit of, you know, tarnishing, but whatever. It's a using knife. That's what it's always been really, really good at. And the spine freshly 90'd. You know, years of ferro rod striking and flint and steel work with this knife had rendered the spine a little, you know, blunt. So she's got her makeover. Was already out on a nice long woods hike today, out in the beautiful snowy hills. And this knife did, in fact, accompany me. So pleasure to use. Doesn't weigh a ton, but in terms of being a workhorse, the Woodlore design is proven. Pick your grind. All right. Well, thank you very much for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Take care.